skill that I have chosen to learn is spinning a basketball on my finger. I've decided to learn this skill as completely new to me, providing a large degree of difficulty. I've constantly practiced spinning a basketball on my finger several days each week, starting at the cognitive stage of the skill acquisition, where I was very slow to get my head around the whole concept. At the beginning of my practice, I began to break down each little step of the skill and practice them individually using the part practice technique. I practiced balancing a basketball on my finger and also getting the right spin technique in different parts during the first 2 weeks. At this point, I was giving myself positive and negative delayed internal feedback after each practice session. During the next 4 weeks, I changed my practice to distributed, where I was practicing for short periods of time with longer rest periods where quality feedback was given to me. I watched online videos which gave me external advice. By this stage, a neural pathway had been laid and widened in my brain. I also started to develop some muscle memory for the skill, where at this stage I didn't need to break down the skill as much. After these next 4 weeks, I felt that I have moved up the skill acquisition bar to halfway between the cognitive and associative stage. For the last 2 weeks, I changed my practice style to whole, where I was completing the skill in its entirety with all aspects of the skill together. I was also providing myself positive internal feedback, which helped me to succeed. I also started mentally rehearsing for short 5-minute periods, focusing on my skill and movements required. After these 2 weeks, I roughly moved 80% of the way to the associative stage for my skill, where I understand the concept of the skill, have developed some muscle memory due to neural pathways being laid, and have successfully learnt the basics of a new skill. This has been my journey of my give it a term practice. There are 3 different stages of the skill acquisition continuum: cognitive, associative, and autonomous. There are 3 different pairs of practice techniques, being part and whole, fixed and variable, massed and distributed. Part practice is when a complex skill is broken down into distinct parts that are practiced separately. Whole practice is when a task can be practiced in its entirety. Fixed practice is when a person repeatedly practices the same drill to improve a desired skill. Variable practice is when the individual changes the type of activity or conditions on a regular basis. Mass practice is a continuous practice session with smaller rest periods. And distributed practice is a short periods of practice with longer breaks. Throughout my practice journey, I came across many different styles of feedback, including concurrent, which is feedback that is given to a person as they are completing a skill; delayed, which is feedback given after the skill is completed; negative, which is people telling you what you're doing wrong all the time; positive, which is people telling you what you're doing right all the time. Internal feedback is when you tell yourself how you feel good or bad about your performance. External feedback is when a coach tells you what you're doing right or wrong. There is also positive external feedback, which is people cheering for you; negative external, people booing for you; positive internal, feeling good about your performance; and negative internal, feeling bad about your performance. Knowledge of results is knowing whether or not you have done well based off a score or time, and you can see what has happened. Knowledge of performance is how well it feels when you have completed the skill, knowing that you have done good or bad as the ball or shot leaves the hand and the way it was hit. Mental rehearsal is a cognitive type of practice that does not require any physical movement. This is when someone focuses and imagines themselves complete their desired skill. There are many benefits of using this type of practice, including no chance of physical injury, can produce similar results to physical practice, and can also boost confidence and self-esteem. There are 3 types of mental rehearsal: imagery, which is first-person view; observation, which occurs in third-person view; and also self-talk, where someone's inner voice speaks to themselves. Neural pathways are a series of connected nerves along which electrical impulses travel in the body. When an individual begins to practice a skill, a new neural pathway is formed by axons which enables a natural action of the skill to be performed. Once the neural pathway has been laid for the first time, every other time the same skill is practiced, another layer of the path will be laid down which creates the pathway wider. The more practice of the same skill will continue to widen the neural pathway, which will finally make the brain to naturally signal the body to perform the skill easily. Muscle memory are memories that are stored in the brain of frequently enacted tasks that the muscles perform. When the body's muscle memory becomes strong due to having wide neural pathways, the action will become natural to the person and they will be able to perform an action without even having to think. An example of muscle memory is when a soccer player continuously shoots a goal, which is good practice, and then eventually the soccer player will be able to shoot very well without even needing to think about what they need to do.